posted the screenshot earlier, and some of you were interested in how I built these avatar cards, so I figured I'd walk through it. I've already added 2 sections to the page. I gave a background to the second one because we're going to have some interactions with movement, and if you aren't careful, you can end up causing the things below your element to move up and down on the page and shift around when your animations happen, and so this will help us see if we're running into that issue, where if it was just white, we wouldn't notice. So for this top container, I don't want our card to go the whole way across, so I will give it a class of grid3, and then we will add a flex div, although that put it, yeah, there we go. We see that it's 1/3 because of our grid3 class. Inside of our flex div, we want an image, a link, and some text. I had tried earlier to use a heading with the link inside, but I was running into some bugs, so I'm going to use a link and style it as a heading. So let's give this we'll name it avatar card, and then we're going to rename the image avatar. And this is specifically to bring in the default card styles from AutomaticCSS. So in AutomaticCSS, you may have to turn it on, but there's a cards setting with a bunch of individual styles that we can set. So we can set the spacing, we can set the typography, borders, and things like this. So I'm actually going to set the border width to 0 because we don't, and you can't set it to none. Okay, because what's going to happen here is we're going to add the border on a pseudo element, so we don't actually want this element to have the border. So, okay, just know that a bunch of the stuff that we're doing comes from here, so I wanted to show you that real quick. All right, so let's get started styling this card. We already have let's see. Why? Oh, haha, we didn't add the BEM classes yet. So once we add the BEM classes, we'll see all of those ACSS classes. I'm not sure why it's adding this dash at the end. But there we go. So now we have a card. It's not too fancy, but you see that we have some padding, we have some rounded edges, and our image is round. And that's because we have card in the name of our class, and AutomaticCSS is looking for anything with card in the name, and then inside of that, anything with avatar in the class name, so it can apply its automatic styles. I don't really like that image, so we're gonna grab another image, and there we go. All right, so now we can start styling things, and we have, so I have to bring up my code that I wrote earlier because I'm not going to make you watch me type it all out. Okay, so for our avatar card, there's a few things that we want to do. So we're going to start with our image here, and we're going to set its position to absolute, which ends up putting it right there. And then we're going to reset where we want it to sit. We're going to position it. And immediately we see an issue. We have cut off the top. So what we need is on the card itself, we need to set overflow to visible, and then we can see it. But let's take a look real quick at those styles that we pasted in. So the left side of this absolutely positioned avatar image is going to be a calculation. So 50%, which would move the left edge to the very middle, which would, well, here you can see if we just get rid of this and put 50%, it's now off-centered. So we have to move it back, and what we want to do is move it back half the width of the image. So this card avatar size is coming from AutomaticCSS. That's the size of our avatar, and so we want to calculate 50% minus half of the card size. So the card size times 0.05. And then top is a similar calculation where we're doing the card size times negative 0.5, which will give us a negative number, which will move it up half the distance of the card, or half the width, height of the avatar. Okay, so now that that is in place, we can start working on the rest of our card. We're gonna want a little extra space on the top to make room, and then we're also going to, we don't need this yet, but we're just gonna add it now anyway so we don't forget later, set the transition. So anytime we're changing styles from one to another, it will animate for 0.3 seconds. Next thing we need to do is add a pseudo element with our border. So because of the this fading of the border that you see, we're using a mask for that, and we don't want to mask the actual element because it will mask all the things inside of the element, not just the border. So we need to create a pseudo element so that we can mask that without affecting the other elements. So we're going to add a before pseudo element. Content is nothing because this is just a pseudo element that we're using for styles. And then, oops, I have transition here twice. Position absolute, inset 0, which means the edges of this are going to butt up against the edges of the parent. There will be 0 pixels in between. Next, we're going to give it a border radius of neutral light. This is another variable coming from ACSS, a border radius of XXL. A transition. For some reason, the transition of the card and the border looked a little weird when I had them both at 0.3, so I changed this one to 0.4 to make up for that. And then we have a mask gradient, and here's the part that gives us that fade. But first, before we look at how that works, we will front end. Here we go. So here's our card, and we're going to start fading that line there. So a radial gradient, a normal gradient, would fade from one color to another in a direction. So left to right, top to bottom, or at some angle. A radial gradient starts in the middle and works its way out. So in this case, we have a circle, and it's starting at the top and working its way out. And the way gradient masks work is one is anything that's transparent will make the thing behind it transparent. Anything that's solid will make the thing behind it solid. So because we're setting this mask over this element with a border, the border at the center of this circle at the top will be transparent starting at 10% out from the middle. And then by the time you get to 60% out from the middle, it will be no longer be transparent at all. You'll be able to see the full border. So let's save that. And there we have it. If we were to move the avatar out, you can see how it goes and disappears and then comes back. Okay, so we have a card. It looks okay, although we want our link here to look like an H4, so it actually does something, and we will lorem ipsum that title, and for this text we will use ipsum short, and we have a card. Next, what we want to do is right now what's happening is the link is getting the focus, and what we want is the entire card to get the focus. We want this whole thing to be clickable, and we want to be able to hover over any of it to have it initiate our hover state. So there are two parts to this. One is on this link, we will add another class called clickable parent. And this is a class that AutomaticCSS gives us that lets us start the process of telling the browser, hey, we don't actually want this to be clickable, we want the entire parent to be clickable. And then on top of that, we have some styles that we can add, and there's a property that I'm just learning about called focus within. And so now we're saying if this avatar card has an element inside it that gets the focus, we want to add these styles. We also want to add these styles if this element is hovered. So we want to, well, here, let's comment those out, because here's what I was going to say about the moving elements. So if we have a hover and we move this element up a quarter of an M and then give it a box shadow, what we see is if we hover over this, our element below moves up because we're moving this up. So what we want to do is at the same time we're moving it up, we want to add the same, well, opposite margin to the bottom. So as we're going negative 0.25 M at the top, we're going positive 0.25 M at the bottom, so that now we keep our elements down here in the same spot as we do that. Okay, next we want to adjust the border color. So now when the focus is within or when we're hovering, our before element, the border color changes to primary, which is set in AutomaticCSS as well. And we're going to adjust our mask a little bit so that the border is visible closer to the image. So it looks like the border is moving in towards the image when we hover. So as we hover over, the color changes, it moves up, gets a shadow, and that border moves closer. And we do that by saying, so we're still, the transparency starts the same place, but we get to full opacity at 40% instead of 60%. And then I don't actually want this avatar to move up when we're hovering, so I'm gonna set the top to a new calculation where we're saying the avatar size minus or times negative 0.5, which was our original one, but we're going to add 0.25 m to that to counteract the 2.5 m. We're moving the rest of the card. So now the avatar should stay in place while the card moves up, although it did not. Did I forget to save it? Or did I do something wrong? But it's jumping because the avatar card does not have the transition. Excuse me. So if we add our transition in here to match the previous transition, now it should stay in place perfectly as we move our card. Now, just to show you a couple more things, if you're not familiar with AutomaticCSS, where all these, I sort of explained a little earlier how it works, but we can say change our color to, let's go green. And now if we save that and go back here, now our colors are green. We should also test the oh, we still have a focus on the title. So our card heading, card link, whatever we want to call it, we need a focus outline of none. And there we go. The other really fascinating thing about Etch is, I will move this over to the side real quick so we can see. If I want to change something about this, let's say we want to change the color of just this, we can set that here, set it to black, and it will automatically write the CSS for us here. Or if we change the CSS here, it will automatically update it here. So I kind of like just writing the CSS, but if you prefer to use inputs, it will write the CSS for you, and you can see what is going on. I'm going to duplicate this card a couple more times. Save. You could make this a component so that these would be, when you edited one, it would edit all of them in terms of the styling, but I'm not going to add that to this video. There's other videos that Kevin did showing how to do that. And there we have it.